BPI Sports has always been a massive supporter of natural bodybuilding, so it only made sense for us and them to partner up. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by BPI Sports, and if you want to support them and us, use code Natty News Daily at checkout for some exclusive discounts off any of your orders. Enjoy the episode. What's happening, people? Welcome to another episode of Natty News Daily. We got the boys on again, and we're going to chat about the off-season because we're now all in it. I'm the latest to the party. But we're just going to kind of talk about...
this is the first episode of our new mini-series, Fatty News Daily.
Fatty News Daily, yep. Chubby cheeks
Fatty
all
News
around.
Daily. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Plump.
Yeah.
We don't look healthy. We don't look emaciated.
We are all well fed for sure.
For all of you listening, that we're kidding. We're not actually fat.
Depends. I don't know. You put the side by side of me on stage, you might question that decision.
Yeah.
But yeah,
according to social media, some people like that more. So, you know,
this is true. Yeah, I thought it'd be cool to kind of talk about the different approaches we have, because I think we all have different approaches with nutrition and training and stuff like that. You know, especially for me with kind of the transition that I've made with my own training and kind of what that's hopefully going to translate into, and you know what I'm getting out of it, both physically, mentally, intrinsically. But let's kick off with, I think, James, you've been in the off season the longest out of the three of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because your season ended before Dan. So let's start with you, with where you have come, where you're at right now, where your projections, like, just spill the dirt.
Yeah. So season ended, last show was July 17th. And I knew at that point, actually, you know what? I probably didn't know that was going to be my last show at that point, but very soon after that, I did. I didn't have any shows necessarily planned up. I had a couple that were kind of like bouncing around in my head. I knew that I needed to, if I were to compete, probably lose another couple pounds based on the placings I had. But then around that time, we were going through some big life changes and quickly came to the realization that not only was I going to be starting a new job, but that new job was going to be in New York, which is 450 miles from where we were living. So did the move, new job, all that. And at that time, we hadn't closed on our house up here yet. So we were living with the in-laws. So there was not a chance in the world I was going to try and prep, right? So as soon as I realized that we were moving, went right into the off season. And that off season was really just, I just got to get shit done, right? Like I was still working full time at the other clinic, transitioning, trying to get a new license in New York, which is not an easy process for healthcare professionals, while like organizing pods and loading. So it was just like eat when I can, sleep when I can, train occasionally. I think at that point I was still decent at training. And then really settled in when we got up here in like August. So I left the stage that day. Last weigh-in I had, I don't know what I was carved up, but I was 162, I think, 162 at weigh-ins for that show. And then very quickly, so Brett and I follow the like recovery diet. I'm not adding 10 carbs every week. Like that's crazy, especially during everything I was doing. So we pretty much jumped me right to maintenance calories like the next week. And I was just like eyeballing stuff as well, obviously, because things were crazy. So I went from 165 to about 185 pretty quickly. And then over the next couple weeks, probably like through midsummer, was like 190. 195, held that for a long time. And then now we're going on, was it like 10 months or so since I've competed? And I've been anywhere from 200 to 215 for, I'd say, like 3/4 of my off season. Not really intentionally pushing weight up, really just letting like gym performance drive if I'm hungry or not, right? So I eat more carbs, obviously, around my training period, being very intuitive with everything on the nutrition side, eating a large bolus of protein 4 to 5 times a day. So minimum of like 200 grams of protein, maximum probably about 250. And then just filling out carbs and fats as I see fit. Because I know my baseline foods, I eat like chicken, broccoli, and rice like every single day for lunch. I eat like 1 to 2 bagels with it. I mean, it's easy, right? Like, and that's what it is for me. That's what it is for me. It's all about like, I went through, like, I kept telling myself, like, I'm going to track. This will be the week I start tracking. And I do it for like a day and be like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, training's going well. I'm happy. I'm not stressed. My weight's where I want it to be. Like, why do I need to track to just have more data to tell me I'm where I want to be? So I really haven't tracked anything since the show, honestly. So it's been like 10 months of really being completely intuitive with nutrition. I went through a very bad period of training because things were so crazy with the business and us kind of like ramping this up, and then some other issues with family matters and things. So really, up until I'd say the first 3-4 months of off season were fantastic. I was locked in, I was training. Things got a little bit dicey for about another 3 months, and then this last month or two, I've really like gotten right back into it. With what it took was me transitioning to working out now at 5 a.m.
I was
because
gonna
that's
say
just what.
your morning transition has definitely helped you a lot. I can
Yeah,
tell.
absolutely. It's night and day. And you guys know me, like I was not a morning person up until I like very intentionally made this transition. And that's just now given me the time where I'm not coming home after a 10-hour workday, putting my daughter to sleep, writing notes, and then having to work out where I just feel like garbage. Like I start my day. And it's funny, I work out now Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings because Sunday I don't have notes I have to do. And then like the other days, it lines up with days where I don't have work that night where I'd have to wake up the next morning to do it. So like when I get home from work, like so tomorrow I won't work out, but like yesterday I got home from work and I was like pumped because it's like sweet. When I wake up tomorrow,
I
I
get
get
to
to work
lift.
out. Right.
Yeah.
And it starts my day with like a positive, which is
Yeah.
fantastic.
It's huge.
Mhm.
So yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Just
It-
the training right now is 4 days a week. I did add a fourth day. I was at 3 days a week for a very long time. But just with the way things lined up, it was going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Um, and I did not want to do legs on Friday morning and jam it into 1 hour. So I'm doing push, pull Monday, Wednesday. I'm doing arms and delts on Friday, and I'm doing my leg session on Saturday. So I'm adding in, and that's the way I'm kind of going to split things up. Is I have my push pull legs as my main 3 days, and that fourth day, which is my delt and arm day now, is like a flex day. So I'll run a mesocycle or two of like one emphasis, and then I'll go like probably chest next because that's another weak point of mine. And I'll do like an extra chest and traps day or something like that, and just hit extra volume because I know I'm doing a lower relative volume program here.
it's recoverable. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I can crush it then, right? Like my intensity, like I'm training through the roof because I'm only hitting it once a week.
Yep. Yep. That's what I've noticed having arms on their own now is that I just get like amped up for it. And the intensity is so much higher than what it ever was when I was like tacking it on at the end of like chest or back or whatever. Right.
Yeah, I
All
find
right.
it's super interesting how I'm going back a little bit. You said you never saw yourself as a morning person. And it's funny because you guys probably would never guess this, but growing up like high school, I was not a morning person either. But like ever since I've started sleeping better, like I beat my alarm up every morning, almost every morning, like 95% of the time. And I almost am a morning person now.
I've always been a bit more of a morning person, and especially being off prep now. Now that I actually sleep, like I get up and like the sun is shining. Like we have a lot of windows in our house, and like the sun rises, like shines through our windows. Like I get up now and I'm just booming, just ready to go. And I train. I don't train as early as James does, but I've since we bought this house, I've been training at 8 a.m. And so I get up at 6, gives me time to get my shit together. I usually get all my food packed up, have a meal, walk the dog, and just like start the day, like James said, start the day off with a positive. And it's amazing the difference it makes. And now for me to train like the odd time on the weekend, if it's to line it up with a friend or something like that, I'll do like an afternoon. Like this past weekend, we had baseball and I trained at 3 in the afternoon. It wasn't too bad, but it's amazing how much I prefer those 8 a.m.s now, just out of routine, right? It's not that like, it wasn't necessarily that I was any more or less like energized or like excited to train, but just the routine of it. I'm like, this isn't like, maybe it's some circadian rhythm shit, but like, I'm like, this is not when I'm this active in my day. You know what I mean? So no, it's good you found that kind of sweet spot because now you're just going to run with it.
Yeah. And the physique is responding. I mean, I posted a couple photos recently and yeah, it's I think I look good, but yeah.
Man. Cool.
It's responding really well for sure.
All right, Dan, you're up.
What do you want to know? I mean, so I came out of prep in November ish. coming out of prep, I'd say, well, I operate like a robot, like pretty regular, like year round. I did have some appetite and just uncontrolled eating like for about 6 weeks after my show. Training was pretty regular.
You know what your weight did over that 6 weeks? Because you've told us it was nothing for you to crush like 7K calories. So like, did your weight get up pretty fast?
I think I got up maybe 20 pounds within those, maybe 15, 20 pounds within those 6 weeks.
That's
Something like
not
that.
that bad, to be honest.
I was up.
I got
It wasn't awful. And it's not like I was doing that every day too. So it's just like, it was just difficult to keep myself under control. But yeah, like 7,000 calories was a comfortable amount of food for me to eat. Not even like, yeah. So I had that like quote unquote fuck around phase for 6 weeks, which got it out of my system and then got back to being the robot that I like to be. So, right around early January, I kind of got things back into normal off-season swing of, hitting my numbers day in, day out, that sort of thing. Pretty similar to prior off seasons. I mean, I've definitely refined a few things. Just general things that I've seen. Okay, I can do this better, or doing this, it might work better. I think little tweaks in training. I think the biggest thing I'm doing now is I actually kept my step targets from my prep. So I got up to about 8,000 steps in prep, which really is not that high in general. That's all I needed in prep. But I've literally just kept that. I've kept that 8K target. I think I've maybe missed it maybe 2-3 times since November. So like hitting it every single day, which is, I think, just generally been of benefit. In terms of a few things, I mean, for me, it's primarily geared towards improving my bodybuilding, but with that, it's I think health benefits of it, but that inherently kind of translates to better bodybuilding outcomes too. Better digestion, just feeling better mentally overall, handling food better, all that sort of stuff, all that fun stuff. But yeah, I think, I'm about 6 months, a little over 6 months post contest. I'm like I'd say like 98%, 97% recovered at this point.
So this is something before we continue. I actually got a DM about this. So with how I've come out of prep and you took a little bit more like slower approach, correct?
I wouldn't say that.
Oh, maybe they got confused then.
I'm up. I'm up like 33, 32 pounds from.
Basically, someone asked me if there was any, because like I think like my prep negative effects were gone almost by the end of week 1 with how quickly I threw food back into my life and that kind of stuff. But you've spoken before about how you're like, months and months and months feeling still negative effects. What do you think was the factor of that then?
So I should note that I got back to feeling like mentally I actually didn't take too much of a hit. I actually, it's certain things. I think it seems like everyone kind of responds very differently in a prep. Like you noted massive like sleep deprivation. It went down a little bit, but I never really had many like major issues with it. I didn't actually feel like a zombie this go around. In terms of like in my 2018 prep, I just felt like I had lead feet all the time, but I really didn't get that too much. But like my appetite was completely out of control. Like I said, like 7,000 was like not just like
casual.
Like I could casually put that back and be like, okay, that's a normal amount of food to eat, right? And then hormonally, I took a huge hit too. Like, I mean, you guys saw what I got my blood work done. I got my blood work done a month post contest, and it was, my test level, free test was like 11 or something like that, which I forget the reference range, but it was like way out of the reference range. I think to a certain extent, that is a result of the fact of I have to dig quite a bit to get into bodybuilding shape, just simply because of how I hold body fat. Like I literally started my prep in May with like my entire upper body had striations. Like I had fully striated lats at whatever 6 months out, but my legs were like, yeah, maybe we'll show a vein like if you have a pump, you know. So I just need to dig a lot to get my legs into proper shape. So I think it's just kind of, the name of the game. If I held body fat really evenly, I think it'd be a little bit of a different animal. But
Yep. Okay.
just, I mean, I hold body fat well for like general purposes because I can look like, super lean on the beach or whatever and still be full as hell, like full as a house. Like I literally had striated lats but I was full still. So it's like, you know, but to get into bodybuilding shape, to get especially my glutes and my hams, it's like I hold a lot of fat in my glutes and hams. So,
Yep.
Just kind of comes with the
There we go.
territory.
Little
I
a
think.
little clarification for listening,
Yeah.
right? Because it's all relative with
Yeah, for
what
sure.
the effects are you're feeling, right? Like, between the two of us, sleep drastically different between the two of us. I got my sleep fixed up right away. Your sleep didn't take a hit. So it's just,
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say go that far, but
you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
generally
Point
I
taken.
think
Yep.
part of that too is perspective, right? Like Dan's a little farther out, right? So when he's saying like, what, you're like 90, 95, right? So you're looking back and like seeing the different phase changes. And I saw that too. Or like Leo, where like right now you feel 100%, but who knows, like 4 months from now, you could like look back and be like, oh, you know what? Like I didn't even notice because you're so much better, like proportions better than where you were. So everything feels great now. But then like you may look back and say like, you know what, I'm even better now because I'm like at this next level.
Yeah.
Right. So there's phases to it and you can't really see it when you're in the moment. Same as prep. Like you don't realize like how shitty of a person you are or how tired you are until like after the show and you're like, oh yeah, like I shouldn't have said that. Or
I didn't realize how fucked I was till being out of it. You know what I mean? Like
you got that euphoric feeling, didn't you?
Well, it's just like I didn't realize how, and for those that have gone to those depths before, like I'd never dieted to that extent, right? Like I'd never been in that condition before, so it was already a shock to my body and like physically, mentally. But looking back on it, like how much I operated on, subpar sleep and that deficit, and for so long running peaks, like over the course of like a 4-week period, there was like 20 days that were like no carbs.
Yeah, it's just a blur.
Right? Like just eating veggies, but I did it, and like you just
did what you needed to do.
Did what you need to do, right? And looking back on, I'm like, holy shit, how the hell did I get that done?
Well, the thing is it's like it's a gradual transition too. It's not like you go through prep and one day you're like normal and then all of a sudden you're like zombie mode and like starved and all this angry at everyone and just want to be left alone all the time. It's like it's a slow, like it slowly creeps in, and then like you don't realize it until after, like holy crap, how much I had changed. Like I had people telling me how blunt I was at the end of prep, and it was just like, was I? No, I was just being honest. I'm like, well, I mean, I tend to be like that a little bit anyways, but it like really comes out when I'm prepping. But yeah, it's funny. But the outside, like people from the outside, I think sometimes see it more than you do.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't recognize. I mean, even like I always would say to Carrie, I'm handling things better now, right? Like I feel like I've got a good handle on this prep. She's like, yep, Like I feel like I'm being nicer than previous preps, but maybe I'm just delusional.
I think to a certain extent, if you're mindful of it, you can be like, okay, I'm like making an effort to not be snippy because it's like I know I'm gonna have a tendency to be snippy. I think you can mitigate it to a certain extent, but to a certain
to a certain extent,
to a level, to a certain extent, exactly.
So yeah, I guess that leaves me, who's the latest to the off-season party. So we are May 18th. So 5 days would be a month from my last show. So I'm not even a full month into the off-season.
Does it feel weird that it hasn't been that long, but
it feels like a lot longer ago, like, to be honest. Like, I feel like I've been off stage for a long time. Most recent weigh-in has seen like 181. So for perspective, carb up show day weighed like 158. So we'll call it, I'm going to round up to 160 just to make it easy. So basically 20 pounds,
20-ish pounds. Yeah, a little
you
over
know,
20.
and yeah, in 3 weeks, 2 weeks. Like I mentioned earlier, everything feels good. But I will say I've made a lot of changes with my training, which those that have been following me have probably seen. This is something that I've been dabbling with for quite some time. I've been bodybuilding, for a decade, right? That's what I'm going to basically say it, right? Like, I've been competing for 7 years, but I started taking, bodybuilding training seriously when I was a late teenager. So I'm a decade in the game. And the best way I can put it is I'm kind of burnt out by it. I need a break. I need a switch. And what's interesting is that I had these feelings through prep, and I've dabbled with this before with these thoughts, but
we talked about it.
yeah, for the three of us, this isn't new conversation, but for those listening, this is probably very, new knowledge, but it's stuff that I've played around with, just with things in the industry that drive me nuts and just people in the industry that drive me nuts. And I was like, I just need to separate a little bit, but we were in prep. I suppressed that shit. I'll push it aside. We got a job to do. They would creep in and I'd be like, nope, you got shows to win. Let's go do that first. And then we'll talk. And, the season come and gone, and obviously it was good. And I come off stage, ready to go. What's next? And that initial passion and fire for bodybuilding coming off stage and like, okay, what are we doing now? What do we need to work on? Couple years off, pro debut, blah, 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 all these big goals. And that lasted. I had a call with Cliff. We had it all mapped out, off-season training. It was all sorted out. And like by the end of the first week, those thoughts creep back in. And now that there's no imminent goal, I was like, I'm going in. And here we are. You boys running, you boys doing calisthenics, battle ropes, powerlifting. The best way I can explain it to those listening without going too far into detail, because I'll save that for like a YouTube video. But if before bodybuilding was 100% of my training, it's now like 40%. So today, for example, was legs. I did deadlifts. I did a couple sets of 3. So I did some triples. Then I did some bodybuilding, leg extensions, leg press. Then I did some jump squats. I did some core work, and I went for a run. That was lower body today. So I'm running 5 days a week, 2 upper, 2 lower, and then an arm day because I want bigger arms regardless of bodybuilding or not.
And forearms.
And forearms. Yep. Forearms are getting attention now. But yeah, and it's fun. I will say I am having some of the most fun with my training that I've had, honestly, in a long time. I don't want to put an exact figure on it, but it's been a long time where I've had this much fun. I've enjoyed my training, for the whole prep, the whole off season. Like, don't get it confused that I was like hating it, but just the challenge of it all and the newness and the excitement, right? Like, it's literally like when I go work out, because a lot of like, especially like the conditioning stuff I'm doing, and even like some of the main training, like from a bodybuilding standpoint, I kind of just will like wing it a little bit. And I'll be like, what do I feel like doing today? I have like my main compounds that I'm trying to progress, but the rest of it, I'm just like today for leg extensions, I just did like one set of like myo rep sets of 10. Like, I just did 10s till I couldn't move my legs anymore. And I was like, man, that hurt like hell. That was fun. Or I would do like, I did jump squats after like a split lunge. That hurt like hell, but it was fun. Like, it's interesting. It's really interesting from being so hyper bodybuilder to like completely shifting from that. But it's super interesting.
So you don't feel as confined.
Yeah, it's different, right? I think that's honestly, I just needed a change, right? Like when you do something, and especially with bodybuilding, because it's so all consuming for a decade, right? Like, the guys that do just bodybuilding for 20, 30, 40 years, like, kudos to them. Like that, I don't have the attention span for that. Clearly, like 10 years is clearly kind of my when my brain and my body's like, yo,
Just like,
switch her up a little bit. But I'll be back to full-time bodybuilder eventually, but the amount of enjoyment, like I look forward to every workout just because I'm like, man, what am I gonna do today? I'll see something on Instagram and I'll save it and I'll be like, I'm gonna give that a shot tomorrow, and it'll be some kind of like battle rope burpee bullshit, right? And it's
well,
fun.
and you can take that in different directions too, right? Like you're going more like calisthenics. Other people go powerlifting. I mean, you're kind of doing that as well. Some people get into like the functional bodybuilding or CrossFit or whatever, or like just changing your training style, right? Like if you've been in a rut and you've been doing the same split or the same style, like I there for a while was like, I'm doing a double progression and I'm doing straight sets, and that's all I'm doing because I can track that and I know if I got one extra rep. It's like that gets super boring. Like trying to like, yeah, I got 7 reps instead of 6. Like sweet. Now I'm gonna go for 8 next week. Versus like now I'm doing like those giant sets that, and like Dan showed us some of like his cool supersets, and I'm just like having fun with it because like it's delt training, right? Or whatever it is. But like for me, it's the delts. Like how much weight am I gonna add to my lateral raises? Like probably not that much. But like
I like those little ticks. I'm obsessed with it.
I can just smash them with like a huge giant set and feel like my arms are gonna rip off, and like that's fun to me. I don't know. I like that.
Oh, I like that too. You like pain a lot.
I just like feeling strong again. Like like frig, I pressed the hundreds the other day for like almost a set of 20.
Fair, you did that the day after the show and you were still stronger than me in that. So
yeah, even I was like, I'm not taking the hundreds.
But it's just like I have as much as I have respect for like the physique side of the sports, like I don't know, man. There's something to that guy that could put like 400 or 500 pounds on his back and rep it out for a squat. Like I dig that stuff. There's some like bodybuilders who are only fixated on like how to develop a physique, whereas like I still get a kick out of the pure strength stuff, right? Like I will always love heavy deadlifts or like heavy bench, heavy squat. Like that will always, and I think having that a place for that in my training is just reigniting that fire and that enjoyment out of it, right? Like that stuff to me, there's some people that just have zero desire for that, and you're gonna get hurt, and like that's not gonna build muscle and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, man, all I've cared about for 10 years is building muscle. I don't care about that right now, right? Like that's such a weird thing to think about when I thought about it, but I'm like, man, all I gave a shit about for a long time is like, how am I going to build more muscle? And I'm like, man, there's so much. I made a post the other day, more life. There's so much more to life, like for me right now, than that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. It's just this is something that we've talked about before, which is like the phases of life. And I've talked about this with Brett, right? He's like, you're at a transition, and I'm ready to embrace that. Whereas for a while, I think I was like kind of scared of it.
Well, if you look at it objectively, we know that maintaining muscle mass is significantly easier than growing muscle mass, right? So like you're still training.
Yeah, I'm not going to be a worse athlete after this phase.
Yeah, like you're at the very, very least maintaining the muscle you have and challenging your body in new ways. So cardiovascularly, probably going to be a little bit better, might be a little bit more mobile, might be a little bit more agile, right? Like you're training different properties. So like you're having fun and not taking a step back. So there's no real negative other than if you want to make the argument, like you may or may not be improving with hypertrophy. But I challenge to say that it's a novel stimulus and you're still training with proper intensity. So there's no reason that you shouldn't also grow. Is it 100%? Is it optimal for bodybuilding?
Don't use the O word. Jesus.
Yeah.
I love the O word.
But like
I hate that with every fiber of my being.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, right? So if true bodybuilding training is, we'll say 90%, right? You get 90% of your gains. Maybe you're getting 40% of your gains, but you're enjoying it, and 40% is still better than 0%. So you're still progressing and you're enjoying it along the way.
I'll still fuck all the haters up when I get on stage.
So to me, that's still better than like, yeah. Well, that's why I'm trying to convert to a middleweight, so I don't have to like face you until the end if I ever make it there. Who knows?
All right, dudes, we're going to get kicked off here in less than a minute, according to Zoom. So I think this was a fun chat. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Always a pleasure
As
chatting
always.
with you guys. For those that support us, obviously we appreciate it. And continue following the page on Instagram. We're closing in on 11,500 followers, which is pretty nutty to think that at one point we were at 1, which is pretty damn cool. Actually, we started with 3, the 3 of us. So we were never just at 1. But anyway, thanks everybody for watching. We'll catch you guys in the next one, and we'll see you guys later.